Now, notice, in order for us to appreciate knowledge, there are two things we must appreciate. Two very important things that we must appreciate. And these things, a lot of us miss them. It is why we don't manage our risk very well. Number one thing we must understand is we must understand the difference between logic and the reason. Because remember, in order for us to manage the risk, we must acquire some relevant knowledge so that we can manage that risk wisely. So for us to act wisely, we must know the difference between logic and the reasonableness. So what is logic? Logic is the use of structured formal rules of thinking. It follows, number one, strict principles of cause and effect, consistency, and validity. That is logic. Logic is a step-by-step way of reasoning, okay? Logic is based on facts, based on data and evidence. For example, if you put money in the stock market today and you do it over the next 10 years, it is true that though your efforts are going to compound. That is logic. Data, history, facts. Very structured. Logic, however, ignores emotion. It ignores culture. It ignores personal situations and contexts. It is why a lot of poor people who are logicians, they end up buying a lot of shares when they could have been doing something else. Now, make no mistake, we are not condemning anything. We are going to give examples so that this can make sense. So among the strength of logic is that logic ensures clarity and fairness. The weakness, though, is that logic is rigid and ignores context. And I'm going to give you a lot of examples here on context. If you put money in the bond market, what's going to happen? You're going to receive a return at the end of the period. There's data, there's a history. The risk is low. Okay, fantastic. Logic. If you put money in land, land appreciates in value because there's history, there's data, there are facts, logic. If you put money in crypto, crypto can gain value overnight and you can become a millionaire. Okay, logic. But what does reasonable mean? Reasonableness balances logic with practicality, with emotions and context. Reason asks the question, what is fair, what is wise, and what is workable in this situation? So when you are reasonable, you are more flexible and more situational. Say, I am a broke guy. Is it really true that if I'm earning a 2 kwacha, I can put my 2 kwacha in the stock market and become rich? The facts are that if you do it for 30 years, you're going to make some money, it's going to compound. But what is the reality? The practicality is that perhaps it may never happen. You may just die trying. So reasonableness does not just focus on facts. It includes the context, the situation. So it is more flexible. Practical, not just theoretically correct. The strength of reason is that it creates a balance. The weakness is that it's subjective and very compromising. So these are some of the things that we must appreciate. Now, let's make a few. Let's try and let's try and illustrate this. Okay, let's try and illustrate this. A lot of people. Let's try and illustrate this. Let's give an example here. Okay, let's try and illustrate these facts. When we talk about logic, it might interest you to know that a lot of people think that logic and reason are the same. A lot of people, but they're not the same. And we want to discuss that difference. So we've said already, we've established that logic is about rules, about facts, about structure. So a logical mind says if A plus B, if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A and C must be equal because A is equal to B and B is equal to C. So that means C and A are also equal. That's logic. So logic is rigid. Logic is exact and logic is uncompromising. So logically, if you put money in the stock market, guess what? You're going to make some money over time. That's logic. But what does reason say? Reason says, let's take into account your situation, your context, your timing, so that we can balance the two. So now notice, reasonable thinking while it is good, it may make you make a lot of reckless decisions. For example, some people have quit their job to go and start a business because it is reasonable that you can make it when you go into the business world. But what is the reality? Only 5-15% of people quit their jobs without a stable source of income make it. So if you ignore logic, you may expose yourself to foolishness. If you ignore reason, you may expose yourself to recklessness. So logic protects you from foolishness, while reason protects you from being reckless. So the best thing that you can do as an investor to manage your risk is to balance between the logic and the reason. That's what you need to do. You need to balance between logic and reason. So now, let's make a case here, okay? Let's make our case. Let's make our case and let's balance logic and reason. Let's make our case. So I'm gonna get back to our slides and I'm gonna try to balance now. Let's try to balance the logic versus reason so that we can make sense out of this. So remember here, let's use an example here. Let's use some examples here, okay? Let's illustrate. So please give me comments if you're following. Give me comments if you're following. Give me the comments if you're following. Just type in the comment section. Give me a comment. Let's know you're following. Give me a comment. Great.